evening and welcome from the Southern Oregon coast to the James and Randall show. I'm Randall, and on the line with me via phone from the great state of Oklahoma is my colleague and good friend James. James, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, it's good to be with you, Randall. And one of the things that I've always found interesting and a subject I'd like to talk about tonight is the Dafeo murders, also known to most Americans as the Amityville Horror.
That is so true, my friend. And I want to tell you and the folks out there listening tonight that there are really two tragedies in this story. The first and foremost being the 6 members of the Dafeo family who were shot and killed methodically by Ronald Dafeo Jr. And also, I want to talk about the subsequent haunting of the Lutz family that moved in on December 18th, 1975, who also has an impact on this story.
That's right. That's a good point. There's really several sides to this story, several faces, if you will. And that's some of the things I want to dive into is the murder side of this and the paranormal side of this. There's been talk of spirits. There's been talk of demons. The Dafeo said that he had demons in his head. All kinds of interesting topics came up when this all came out. And so let's start off, Randall. Tell us more about this guy and what led to this and how all this transpired.
Well, I first want to tell you that I can't understand. You and I have studied many hauntings. You and I have been involved in one particular haunting. But how has this story, these murders, this haunting, the subsequent books and movies, how has this held captive the intrigue of America for almost 4 decades? Can you answer that for me, James?
You know, it's just one of those things when you have unsolved mysteries. You know, I think people all over like a good mystery, and people just want to know. And you know, the truth has never really came out, and we'll probably never know. But it's just like on our last episode about the Bell Witch. You know, that's another thing that's just kept people captivated for years and almost 200 years. And until something is resolved or solved, people will still be asking why, and they want to know what happened.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't know that this story will ever be resolved. But I want to start with the Dafeo murders. November 13th, 1974, approximately 3 a.m., Ronald Dafeo Jr. methodically shot and killed 6 members of his family. One thing I want to ask you, James, is it possible that there was a demon presence in that house long before the murders ever occurred?
Well, I'm not going to say that it's not possible. It very well could be possible. But does a demon tell you to shoot 6 members of your family and you get up and do it? You know, not me. You know, I wouldn't, of course, and 99.999% of the people that listen to this wouldn't either. But there's always that one person out there somewhere that can be influenced in that way and do something drastic and crazy like that.
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit, James, if you will. I want to backtrack to when Ronald Dafeo Jr. was 2 years old. There have been eyewitness accounts that say that Ron Sr. Dafeo had physically abused Ronald Jr. when he was just 2 years old. I want to ask you one question, and I know the answer to this, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Is it possible that the traumatic experience he had would allow an entity to manifest itself through him due to that experience?
I will say absolutely yes. You know, anytime you have a great act of sin, I really think that there's a good chance that if something's around, that it can, and you know, it can influence things. It can, you know, we see so much in so many haunting cases that, you know, there's been something like that, unfortunately, that happens and brings these spirits out. And I would say that's very, very possible.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and my answer to that was unequivocally yes. Because, first of all, after he was abused, and this is from eyewitness accounts, it was well known that him and his father, Ron Sr., never got along. Now, it is true that Ronald Dafeo Jr., according to accounts, eyewitness reports, police reports, that he did do drugs. But also, in interviews that I came across, he said he heard voices. And we don't know what voices those were.
You know, that's true, but I'm sure there are a lot of drugs out there that you can take, and if you take too many, you're going to hear voices too. So, you know, can we say that's a demonic voice that he's hearing? No, I can't, you know, say for the fact that that's what he was hearing, and that's the general thing that I'm understanding is these voices were supposed to be demonic voices that he was hearing in his head.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we heard, or I found out through my research, that yes, there were possible voices. But he also said initially that he tried to blame the murders on a mafia hitman, which later on was discounted, and shortly thereafter he confessed to the murders. And he also tried to say that his sister Dawn was part of it. However, when you look at the crime scene photos, as I did, you can understand that there was nobody part of that. All the family members were found shot to death, laying on their stomachs as they slept that night. Now that is unbelievable. All 6 family members laying on their stomachs. What do you think about that, James?
Well, you know, that's just hard to imagine, because, you know, 6 people all sleeping on their stomachs, to me that's a little strange.
Well, you want to hear something even more strange? Let's fast forward to the hauntings of the Lutz family. The Lutz family members began sleeping on their stomachs.
That's an interesting point right there.
I think there's some kind of connection there. But, okay, I have to ask this, because when the house was bought by the Lutzes in 1975, they also purchased the belongings of the Dafeo family. That was part of the purchase price. They got the furniture and a lot of their belongings. I don't know, and there's no reports that say that they removed those belongings from the house. My guess is they actually moved their belongings in with the belongings that were already there from the Dafeos, and they started to live their life there. But shortly thereafter, the haunting began.
Well, we know for a fact that spirits or demons, anything like that, connects itself not only to people, but to places and objects. And 6 people being murdered in that house, if there were no demonic spirits or spirits in general in that house before, there were afterwards. I can guarantee you that, Randall.
Oh, I feel the same way, James, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there. I have come across so many people who believe that this is a hoax. Folks, I'm going to tell you something, it's not a hoax. I came across an interview from 1979 on the CBS's Good Morning America show. There, present at the interview were George and Kathy Lutz and James Brolin, who played George Lutz in the movie The Amityville Horror. And I got to tell you, after 4 years removed from that house, the Lutzes still looked scared.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all, Randall. You know, some of the things that you and I have been through, when I look back and I read some of my old notes and stuff, you know, it scares me, you know, reliving some of that stuff or bringing that subject matter up. And you're always afraid that when you mentioned it, something might show up or something might start to happen. So I can understand that anxiety that they had.
Oh, the fear was in their faces, my friend. And if anybody comes across this interview, you have to watch it. It's from 1979. It's CBS's Good Morning America show. And I got to tell you, at the beginning of the show, James Brolin was asked, well, hey, what do you think about this? I know you got the part in the movie, but did you really think this haunting ever happened? And his response was, you know, I just thought I was playing a part. I decided to take the part. I thought it was interesting. I didn't really think much of it. No, I really didn't believe that the haunting ever happened. But at the end of that interview, my friend, he came out and said that there is something to this. And over the years, the Dafeo murders, the haunting, the movies, was all placed in the lap of the Lutzes. And so what happened was they were defamed, they were ridiculed, their privacy was invaded, and subsequently lawsuits began to come out. And to their dying day, which both George and Kathy Lutz are now dead. Kathy died in 2004 of emphazima. George died in 2006 of heart disease. Somebody has to speak for these folks, and we're here to do that tonight.
Right, right. We've seen that, unfortunately. We've seen that side of hauntings firsthand, and it's a shame that people have to go through that.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's something really tough to go through. I'm sure that their life was cut short by at least 10 years from all the stress and trauma they went through. Now, people out there are also saying that, well, the Lutzes created this haunting so they could make money off the books and movies. I assure you, my friend, they were paid a mere pittance compared to what everybody else was paid. The lawyers, the writers, the producers, everyone else was paid a lot more than what the Lutzes made.
I believe that, and it's always the family that gets the short end of the stick in those situations, as we also know.
Now there is somebody to speak out for the Lutzes. I recently came across some information that the eldest son of George and Kathy Lutz, Daniel, has come out and has spoken. However, I am unable to find any of that information right now, but we're going to keep looking. And we're getting close to running out of time here, folks, but we're going to start on this again next week because there's so much more to talk about. And, you know, I got to tell you, James, this is an unbelievable story, and there is so many tragedies in this story.
Well, I'm really looking forward to touching on this subject again. And I want to get into a little bit deeper detail about voices and the actual haunting and some of the things that were happening at the house. And if I understand it right, that house is in New York. Is that correct?
It certainly is. It's in Long Island, New York. It's on the south end of Long Island, New York. And the house butts up against a canal. And it's a huge house, 6 bedrooms. And, you know, it's now up for sale again. The last time it was sold to a local Long Islander for $945,000. Who wonder what it'll go for now, my friend?
No telling. And that's something we might want to watch and keep our listeners posted on.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this out now, but we're going to come back with this next week, because this is going to be a long conversation, my friend.
Oh, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it and getting a little bit deeper into this great unsolved mystery.
Well, from Randall, I'd like to say good night to everybody from the Southern Oregon coast. And James?
Good night, and check back with us. We've got more for you.
And if you folks want to comment on our story tonight, please send us an email at jamesrandalltalk@gmail.com. That's jamesrandalltalk@gmail.com. Good night.